Welcome to the Heroes Keep Gaming retrospective of The Punisher No Mercy. When one thinks of the Punisher video games, the first to come to mind is likely Volition's fantastic 2005 game, starring Thomas Jane, following his role in the underrated Punisher film from 2004.
Not vengeance. Punishment.
What made that game so special was its clever mixture of Max Payne-style third-person gunfights
Small fish can fry.
and Manhunt-style executions.
Your final command performance.
In a globe-trotting adventure that made great use of characters and story elements from Garth Ennis's run on the comics. However, another lesser-known Punisher game was released just a few years later, and it's interesting for entirely different reasons. The Punisher No Mercy is a first-person arena shooter developed by Zen Studios and released in 2009 as a digital-only PlayStation 3 exclusive title. Translating the Marvel Comics Punisher license to the arena shooter genre is a move I never would have imagined, but it was executed with great care and attention to detail. That shouldn't have come as so much of a surprise, thanks to Zen Studios' previous foray into the Marvel Universe with their popular Zen Pinball series. Along with many other great licenses like Aliens vs. Predator and Star Wars, Zen Pinball introduced a series of Marvel Comics-themed pinball tables to their game that also far exceeded what I would expect of the licenses, and were subsequently released as a standalone game titled simply Marvel Pinball. I've never been a huge pinball fan, but the Marvel tables were the first pinball tables to really hook me, and leave me playing them on repeat for hours to beat my previous high scores, as well as the online scores of people on my PlayStation friends list. What made these tables so much more appealing than the standard pinball experience was the impressive presentation featuring character-accurate voice acting, original musical themes for each table, fully animated 3D character models that would battle over the table as you played, and other interactive elements that would be impossible on a real-world pinball table. These same production values and rich understanding of the source material are evident in No Mercy.
Another fine game from the fine people at Zen Studios. Where's my check?
One of the main reasons I didn't expect the Punisher series to lend itself to an arena shooter was that I didn't know if the franchise had a cast of interesting enough characters to include as combatants. Zen Studios made it work by pulling a total of 9 villains and anti-heroes from all 3 decades of the Punisher's comic book history at the time, including some obscure ones I'd never even heard of before. Each character is amazingly well voice acted, with a wider variety of phrases than you'd usually hear in an arena shooter, which leads to genuine laughs while playing. Especially thanks to some of the more eccentric Garth Ennis characters like Finn Cooley and Barracuda.
Fucking shit!
I started this war alone. I'll finish it alone.
Cuda, you motherfucker! You barracuda fool! You fucking cuda!
For some, No Mercy's timing may have seemed inopportune. It followed just 7 months after the disastrous Punisher Warzone film's release in December 2008, and at a time when the arena shooter genre had become passé, following the popularity of what would be considered the modern competitive multiplayer shooter with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare's release in 2007. To me, the fact that it was an arena shooter is what made No Mercy's release so exciting. It was becoming more and more rare to find old-school arena shooter experiences as the PS3 generation went on. What was more surprising was seeing the price on the day it released, that it would only cost $9.99, and would later be discounted as low as $4.99. This was a rare value for a PSN title. I was expecting at least a $15 or $20 price tag, and would have gladly paid it. I purchased it instantly on launch day, July 2nd, 2009, and had no regrets. But I was disappointed to see that no gaming media outlets thought too highly of it once their reviews had dropped.
This is pretty ugly. Simply won't do. Won't do.
Having put over 100 hours into the game at this point, it is undoubtedly some of the most bang for my buck I've gotten out of any non-sale purchase on the PlayStation Store, and possibly including sales as well. For a genre steeped in keeping things as simple and streamlined as possible, Zen Studios introduced some unique innovations with Punisher No Mercy to make it work as an interesting amalgamation of both old school and modern sensibilities. While arena shooters usually have your character running automatically at all times, and modern shooters have a dedicated run button, No Mercy has your character walk quite slowly by default, but includes speed boost pickups within each map to allow you to increase your character's movement speed. Similarly, weapon upgrades and attachments are unheard of in the arena shooter genre, but a highlight of modern shooters. To make this modern feature work within its old school framework, No Mercy's weapons can be upgraded with new attachments through consecutive kills with a weapon, and by collecting upgrade pickups that are also scattered throughout each map. These upgrades bolster stats, add helpful scopes and laser sights, and just make your guns look cooler. Speed boosts and weapon upgrades are reset upon death, which adds an extra incentive to survive as long as possible to maintain your increased speed and weapon power. In addition to the pickups that boost individual weapon stats, you're also able to outfit your character with a passive and active ability, somewhat like a simplified version of Call of Duty's perk system. The active abilities allow you to activate power-ups for a brief time, like increased movement speed, invisibility, or invincibility. The passive abilities give you a permanent stat boost for as long as they're equipped, like increased armor, increased damage output as your health is depleted, or the ability to replenish your health by dealing damage to enemies. Punisher No Mercy has 8 multiplayer maps in total. For context, that's half the number Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare shipped with at launch. Not bad for a $10 game. The map design is where the game really shines. While all of the maps take place in gritty urban environments in and around New York City, each has a distinct look and feel. My favorites are the large maps, which allow for a bit more strategy. The small maps are nice inclusions as well, but basically boil down to non-stop chaos, as you can't go a couple seconds without running into a new enemy. Aside from the varied map layouts, another thing that makes No Mercy's level design stand out is the inclusion of environmental hazards and interactive elements. The scrapyard features a small sort of minecart that you can hop in and make speed down its track by shooting it, running over any passersby in the process, resulting in an instant kill. It's not the most practical way of taking out enemies, but it's undeniably fun and hilarious, piloting your own little trolley of death across the map. The boathouse has a similar feature in the form of a speedboat that is even less practical to use, but fun for the same reason. This level, as well as crossing, feature downed electrical lines, which emit electricity intermittently and can quickly drain nearly your full shields or health if run into. Recycling Vault and Foundry include sections of the map where your view is obscured by steam, which makes for some cool atmosphere and has a signature Unreal Engine 3 look. Several maps also include doors that can be fired through to open up shortcuts. There are also the classic red explosive barrels, which are common in FPS games, but not often seen in arena shooters. Yet they work just as well here, and it's always fun to catch an enemy in an unexpected explosion.
The world won't miss you.
Other than the characters, gameplay, and maps, the other element arena shooters live or die by is their weapons. No Mercy doesn't boast too many surprises in that area, but it delivers the essentials you'd expect from a modern military shooter. The crossbow is my favorite weapon to use in the game, especially when coupled with the invisibility perk, so you can play like a silent assassin. What makes the crossbow so special is also one of my main criticisms with the game. It took me around 90 hours to unlock it. The grind to unlock weapons in the game takes about 4 times longer than it should. I'm not sure if this was by design to provide more incentive for players to put more hours into the game, or if it was just not thoroughly tested. At any rate, No Mercy's Weapons Expert trophy, awarded only after unlocking the crossbow, is the single rarest trophy I've unlocked on my PSN account, on which I have over 600 games played. According to PSNprofiles.com, this trophy was only earned by 266 players total, which equals 1.62% of people who own the game. Since so few players had unlocked the crossbow, it made it even more fun to stock multiplayer matches with, getting silent headshots while invisible, and everyone else was running around with their machine guns. There was one particularly great sniper perch in the glass recycling plant level that's method of access wasn't immediately apparent, and required some exploring to reach, which was no easy task during the hectic battles. It speaks to the level of care that was put into the map design, that you could be rewarded for studying maps carefully. The crossbow isn't easy to use though. It does require more precision than other weapons, since its arrows have a slow velocity and require time to lead targets. That's what makes a perfectly lined up shot that results in an instant kill all the more satisfying. One little detail I appreciated about the crossbow was the neon green fletchings of its arrows, which I always assumed was a callback to the iconic arrows used with the compound bow in The Punisher 2004. And I also can't forget the crossbow's max upgrade bonus, which outfits it with explosive bolts that make you nearly unstoppable, since they have similar explosive damage to that found in the grenade launcher, but explode on impact and don't slow your movement like carrying the grenade launcher does. The story mode is an interesting addition. It's very brief, but worth revisiting, as it offers unique challenges that can't be had elsewhere. It also boasts fantastic artwork by one of the best comic artists in the industry, Mike Deodato. I highly recommend following his Instagram page for some mind-blowing comic book art. What makes these 4 missions interesting is the different scenarios they introduce. On the first mission, you find yourself as Punisher teamed up with Silver Sable against a ton of Jigsaw's goons. In the final mission, you have to survive 8 waves of Jigsaw imposters that flood the map with enemies with surprisingly no hit to the game's performance, except when waves first spawn in. Interestingly, after these 4 brief missions, it ends with the introduction of 4 new characters and a screen that reads "To be continued." It gives the sense that they intended to have more missions included and possibly even more playable characters, which always made me wonder if these were originally planned for inclusion at launch, post-launch DLC, or just to leave the door open for the possibility of creating additional DLC after the game's initial release. When I reached out to Mike Deodato to find out if he had done more artwork for the game, he was kind enough to reply and confirmed that he had not. From that answer, we can conclude that no content was actually cut from the game, and any planned future content had not been started at the time of its launch. Unfortunately, in early 2011, The Punisher No Mercy was delisted from the PlayStation Store due to the license expiring. Since the servers have shut down, one badge of honor is that I'll always be ranked 8th on the leaderboards in the game's Unrest mode, which was the mode dedicated to 8-player free-for-all matches on large maps. And while the player base was small, that is out of over 8,000 players total. The good news is, the delisting and shuttering of online services didn't render The Punisher No Mercy unplayable outside of its campaign mode, as one might expect. Thanks to the skirmish mode, you can still set up bot matches on every map. The one downside is that match parameters like the number of bots, time limit, and number of kills have presets specific to each map that can't be altered. In pretty much every other arena shooter, I've always enjoyed adjusting these settings from time to time to switch things up. However, the presets are basically the ideal settings you'd want for every map, so it isn't much of an issue, and the bot matches are still fun to play to this day. 13 years and over 100 hours later, The Punisher No Mercy still holds a special place on my PlayStation 3's hard drive. Of all the games I have installed, it's one of the first I boot up when I'm in the mood for some quick, mindless action. It always makes for some good laughs and nostalgic moments whenever I return to its memorable maps and characters. I've even received a message from someone asking to purchase my PSN account, specifically so they could play this game. That's never going to happen, but hopefully this retrospective can act as some form of game preservation for those who aren't able to experience No Mercy for themselves. The Punisher No Mercy showed that Zen Studios is more than capable of developing proficient first-person shooter titles in the Unreal Engine. What's more impressive is they were able to manage this feat while making a style of shooter uniquely their own, thanks to its mix of old and new design elements, and one that boasts their usual great production values, especially the fantastic sound and level design. Now that we're seeing a resurgence of old school shooters, it'd be great to see Zen Studios give the genre another try, maybe even with a Marvel license once again. I know I'd like to see it. How about you? And do you have a favorite Punisher game, movie, or comic book series? Let me know in the comments below, and let's talk all things Punisher. If you'd like to see more gaming retrospectives, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And until next time, keep gaming.
This absolutely bites it.
Ik wil het.
The war is over.
Why did they put this in the game?